Hello, my name is Isabella Greene. Today I would like to discuss with you a question that many people who are aware of existence of etheric entities all around us ask. And that question is, how do we get entities and why? I'm going to go down the list of reasons why it makes you susceptible to getting entities. However, if you're keeping a high frequency lifestyle, if you're clearing yourself, if you're going for checkups, the entities are not going to affect you. It's the same, it's very similar to, some people get a flu and some people don't. But we're all exposed to bacteria all around us. We're all exposed to viruses all around us similarly, all right? But those who are healthier, are not necessarily as susceptible to picking up and getting sick from those viruses. Same goes with entity activity. Entity activity is all around us, just like viruses and bacteria. The fact that we don't see them doesn't mean that they don't exist. There are many different types of beings from different dimensions, from this dimension, from lower dimension, the beings that are bred and manufactured specifically for different purposes, and that's a whole other subject. But right now, let's take a look at a number of reasons why a person might be susceptible to getting entities. Reason number one, you had a history of sexual abuse. Any age, childhood, teen, or grown up, if you had a history of sexual abuse, chances are you received something. Very often the children become susceptible to sexual abuse because they already have something, because they already have an entity. The star seeds come into this planet, incarnate into human forms to assist the planet, to assist the evolution. But unfortunately, there are forces that are trying to prevent that from happening. Very often, the star seeds are intercepted before birth, all right, at birth, with different types of beings that go into their newly born bodies or their etheric forms, their energetic forms. And so these children become susceptible to attracting the events such as sexual abuse. And if that starts happening really early on, there is an indication that that person might have come in with something already and definitely picked up something during these unfortunate events. So the people who are susceptible, who have the history of sexual abuse, might have picked up other entities from other beings, but in my observation, there's always a door opener. There's someone, the entity is already in there that is making these children available to other types of beings that feed on them through experiences of sexual abuse, and that continues throughout the life until that door opener is removed. Reason number two, if you spend any time in mental health facilities, there are specific facilities on earth that are just a congregation of all kinds of energies, and mental health facilities happen to be exactly that. If you served or have exposure to the military, unfortunately, there are many different things that happen, and what happens on base stays on base. Unfortunately, it doesn't stay on base. It gets shared with the relatives and partners and romantic partners and people who are sharing household with people who served or were trained or went through intense training in the military, and all of that is connected to the beings that are in charge of war, different war matrices, the beings that are artificially produced for control, artificially produced for monitoring, all different levels of implants, all different kinds of stuff, and these are like flu. If the person picked that up or went through that experience, that they basically received this kind of attachment in the military, then that attachment can be passed on. There is unlimited supply, so it gets passed on to their children if they're sharing household. It gets passed on to their partners, their spouses if that get passed on. I always recommend to clear the entire family if possible. And even with the past, with the old history, when the person is no longer serving and the person is no longer living next to the military base, these things just stay in the form, and so you need to go for clearing and check yourself out and check all the members of the family that you're sharing household with if you happen to be the one who served. Unfortunately, this is one of the things that is just kind of happening in the background of things. Nursing homes and cemeteries and hospitals, all of these facilities are the space where entities congregate, because there's a lot of death, there's a lot of transition happening, there's a lot of sadness, misery, low frequency, there's a lot of suffering happening, a lot of pain. So these facilities produce a lot of what we know as disincarnates, meaning souls that left their physical forms but very often attached to the ones who are in better physical health or in good condition, those who work there, those who visit or volunteer, the relatives that are sitting with the people in hospitals and nursing homes. All of these facilities are, and again, it might not happen for you. You might be in such high frequency and lifestyle and state of being that you're immune, but very often that happens. So this is another reason, or another location that is kind of high risk location for picking up entities. If you yourself or anyone within your household has drug or alcohol addictions, any sort of addictions really, is a door opener for entity activity. Especially if the person drinks until they black out, so anything can take over the body. That's kind of like a party happening, not only for the person who is partying, but also for the etheric beings who feed on that. And so that generates drama, that generates dysfunction, generates all sorts of stuff. So it all goes hand in hand with not only the habitual behavior and the human reasons why the person is have developed addictions, but also that person is highly susceptible to being a victim or being a host to a whole array of different types of entities and beings. Food addictions too, any sort of addictions, but food addiction is probably be the least something to worry about. Addiction to drama, on again, off again relationships, when the heartbreak is constantly present. As soon as your heart goes down, you're going through the heartbreak, you're in that physical pain, that sends out like a signal, invitation to the beings who energetically feed on this type of state of being, this type of frequency. So heart is a center that keeps us connected, that keeps us protected as well. Maintaining the heart in the activated space and in the high frequency space is very helpful. And unfortunately, heartbreak and drama, and very often the drama happens because it is an addiction too. And you would know that if, through observing on your own experience, you observe that you are going through loops. Like the person is looping, like the on again, off again relationship is a very, very good example here. Or the person is looping, repeating the same pattern over and over. Of course, there are human reasons to that. There is childhood, there is upbringing, there is conditioning, there is state of being. But there is also, all of that also attracts the etheric beings that are very interested in the chemistry and energetics that are produced during those events. And so they're going to kind of assist that person to keep repeating their cycles of drama. So that is another reason. hate to tell you, but mind altering or mind expanding drugs that are used in shamanic ceremonies very often bring hitchhikers with them. Not only they open your body to spirits of the jungle, right, or low astral spirits. There are astral spirits and animal spirits and plant spirits, and yeah, this is all good and fun, and it can help you if you're on that level still. But it also opens your body to whatever else wants to come in there. You might not only become a host to the spirits of the jungle, the ones that you just worked with and they helped you, but yeah, they do help on a certain level. But if you want to move past that level, that might constitute the glass ceiling for you, and you might have also picked up all different types of other beings that might be present and kind of watching for an opportunity to jump into human form when the human form is out of control, so to speak. All right, and non-present, the consciousness is not fully intact in that space when the other spirits are going in. If you're on prescription medications, head pills, all head pills, anything that alters your state of mind, your state of consciousness, your state of frequency. Antibiotics make openings in your energy field. So yes, doctors prescribe them. Sometimes there is no other way, but if you had to do that, get yourself checked for entities as well. If you lived next to the cemetery, this is a funny one, right? But I mentioned that already. There are a lot of disincarnate souls that never left, that didn't go anywhere. So sometimes they're hanging around the grave, or they're hanging around the cemetery. So the children in households that are next to the cemeteries tell stories. Yeah, I see dead people, or like there's a black shadow in the corner. It's true. And there's a very often watchers. Watchers as a type of being, and I'll put a video where I talk about watchers in the description here. But the watchers are the type of being that are kind of there to block access to your own higher dimensional selves. And so they are very often associated with the types of beings that congregate around the cemeteries. If you yourself had major surgeries or hospitalizations where you went under, basically when the body is vacant, other stuff might come in, and that's a very common thing. If you black out for no particular reason, something is fishy here, right? When you go under during surgery, as you're hanging out there looking down at yourself getting surgery, the vessel is open, and so at that moment you can receive a disincarnate from a room next door that someone just died in surgery next door in that hospital, and they're seeking another body, and they can go. So that's a disincarnate kind of scenario. So it's good to get yourself checked if that happened. Also, if you're a female and if you had abortions, these souls don't always transition properly, not always transitioned properly, and it's a super traumatic experience for the soul too. Although, they say that it's foreseen or by agreement, but still these souls can constitute auric attachments to the mother. And in old magic traditions, old schools of magic traditions, it's told that these generate negative karma. Well, I don't know about negative karma, but they might be there to kind of, create or push you towards events or influence you making choices that would be kind of look like acts of negative karma. So it's good to get checked for that as well. If you had blood transfusions or organ transplants, everything has consciousness, and that came from a dead body if it's an organ transplant, right? Or even if it came from the living body, that body might have some attachments within themselves. That body has specific consciousness, and so you're receiving not only you're receiving the DNA of that person into your blood, if you're doing the blood, if you receive the blood transfusion, but you also very often receive the entities that were with that person, or the entities of the disincarnate aspect that might come through the person who is departed now, but their organs are being distributed during for organ transplants. And what happens once you receive? So this is just the list of obvious reasons. I hear many different reasons when I interview people for quantum healing sessions, or medley with the quantum healing session, where people want to be checked for entities. So I ask all of these questions just to narrow down, like when you go to a doctor and the doctor asks you questions and tells you, oh, I think you have something, right? But they don't really know what you have until they put you in the X-ray machine. It's the same thing with me. I ask the list of questions during the interview, the questions that would determine whether you are susceptible or have been exposed to locations and activities that make you a higher level of risk, or gives you the higher level of risk of actually carrying entities. But we really don't know until we open up the energy field and see. Many of the beings that I find in people's energy bodies or physical forms are non-terrestrial beings, and they have different agendas and they have different purpose, and they're also all kinds of potential activity. Well, look at life on Earth. There are viruses, bacteria, there are different types of animals, birds, every type of everything has multitude of expressions, and everything feeds on something else, right? It's a food chain here on this planet. It's the same way with etheric beings. Some etheric beings come into Earth because they're curious and they just want to have a human experience. And so it might be a spirit that doesn't have eyes, and it would go into your behind your eyes, and wow, the spirit is having a great experience actually being able to see, but you are having vision problems, for example. So what happens when you have picked up entities or you have never been checked, or you have never been cleared, or you had a lot of exposure, whatever? I recommend getting checked regularly. And if you're in high frequency, if you're doing self-clearing, then maybe a couple times a year. But if you're highly susceptible, then definitely getting checked regularly. But so what happens? How does that express itself? The areas where the entities attach to you, usually that happens around energy centers, but sometimes random body parts as well, and organs too. And so when that happens, you're going to experience dysfunction in your energy center, a blockage in that energy center. Everything that related to that energy center would experience the blockage as well. And you will also develop a physical condition. It could be pain in the body. If that's a disincarnate, the disincarnate brings the whole array of their symptoms and states of being into your reality, and you start experiencing that. One time I worked with a woman who actually had a lump grow on her chest, and she was convinced that something was living in there. When we looked at it, it actually was a habitat for the disincarnate soul that she's carried incarnation after incarnation. So it kind of like created a space for itself to live there, but on her body, the body created a growth in that space. So pains in the body and blockages in life. This is how you know that you have activities, or you have energetic activity or etheric being activity. Like, for example, oh, my left shoulder hurts all the time, no matter what I've done. I've gone to so many specialists, this and that, and it goes away and it always comes back. Well, this is something to be checked. That's connected to the heart center. Every physical condition usually has many different reasons why it's there, and very often has something to do with entity activity. So I guess for today I've talked enough on this subject. I will be continuing with this conversation because a lot of people are very interested in this subject. So please subscribe, tune in, and if you'd like to have a session with me, you can reach me at isabellagreene.com. Please send me a session request form and I will get back to you to schedule an introductory interview. I love you. Take care now. Namaste.